Last month, we did a story about claims by Alan Dershowitz that the media is not doing its job when it comes to reporting on allegations made by the sexual abuse accusers of the now deceased financier, Jeffrey Epstein. One accuser, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, claims she was forced to have sex with Dershowitz at least 6 times. Dershowitz has forcefully denied ever having any contact with any of Epstein's young women. I spoke with Alan earlier this week about what he sees as the media's failings in its reporting on Jeffrey Epstein. Welcome, Alan. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you contacted me right after the story ran last month, and I agreed there's more to discuss on this. So my question is, do you believe that the media is withholding details or information that would exonerate you of any wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein's accusers and discredit perhaps Virginia Giuffre and maybe some of the others?
It's not a question of belief. It's a question of fact. I sent to Netflix and to Julie Brown and to all the others all the evidence. For example, Virginia Giuffre tried to deep six a series of emails in which she's told by another journalist, Sharon Churcher, we know Dershowitz didn't do anything wrong. There's no proof he did anything wrong, but you should put him in your book because he's famous. He did Reversal of Fortune. It'll help you with your book pitch. And then she put me in her book as somebody she did not have sex with.
Listen.
I gave that to everybody.
All right.
Nobody has been willing to put that on.
Well, I spoke to some of these people. You mentioned Julie Brown. Julie Brown, of course, works for the Miami Herald, and she's done a lot of reporting on this over the course of several years. She sent me an email. She said, Alan Dershowitz is in a panic. She said, Dershowitz has never shown me or my editors any proof at all. There are no details we have left out because nearly all the conversations we've had with him, he has demanded that they be off the record. He wants to publish information as sourced only. Is that true?
Totally false. I have a recording. She allowed me to record our meeting, and in the meetings with her editor, and it's all a matter of record because it's on tape. I showed her this material. I gave her the material. I wrote a letter to her on the record letter saying she could use the material on the record in which I provided all this information. I also provided it to Netflix pursuant to an agreement with Netflix that they would put it on the air.
Filthy Rich you're referring to, it was sort of a docudrama. It was entertainment. But you had fair voice in there, Alan, and then you came afterwards and you said that no one should believe anything that was in that documentary. But you were in it. You were in it, and you said you never did anything with any of these young women.
There's a big difference between saying I didn't do anything and playing a tape by her own lawyer, David Boies, in which he said she was wrong, simply wrong to accuse you. You couldn't have been in any of the places she said you were at. I gave them that tape. A tape
they
by
said
her
that
best
that's
friend.
not usable, that it's not clear who they're talking
it was
about.
Absolutely usable.
I'm repeating what they said to me.
Let me tell you, the United States government and the district attorney have heard the tape, and they've credited it, and they've said it's correct. Why do you think the United States Attorney's Office has not used Virginia Giuffre as either a witness or a victim?
Okay, let me ask you something.
In both indictments, they went around her, and I think the question the media should be asking is, does the United States government believe that she has credibility problems? I have her own lawyer, Brad Edwards, on television, saying that he doesn't believe that she had sex with any prominent people,
including Prince Andrew.
Wexner.
There's photographs of her with Prince Andrew.
He's used the word, no, it doesn't. There's no photographs of them having sex. He has said no prominent people after investigation will be involved. He has categorically denied that Leslie Wexner had sex with her, even though she swore under oath that she
on the media issue, Alan, to what end would the media not report these things if they knew them to be true?
Well, first of all, they are true because they're self-proving. This is her own words. Why won't the media put that on? They are afraid of being accused of victim shaming. Now, I'm the victim here. I'm a victim of a false accusation. I never met this woman. I never heard of her. We have tapes with her best friend, perfectly hearable, in which she says that she was pressured to falsely accuse me in order to get $1 billion from Leslie Wexner. Nobody has played that tape. Nobody has shown the emails. The emails are self-proven.
Have you given that tape to the Miami Herald?
Yes, of course I have.
They say they don't have anything from you that they can use, nothing.
I have a tape recording of a conversation at my home with Julie Brown and her editor and my wife. And you can hear in the tape recording, I'm giving them all of this information.
Could you send that to me?
I gave it to the New Yorker. I gave it to Netflix. I've given it to the U.S. Attorney's Office. I've given it to the District Attorney's Office. Remember, I'm the one who sought to unseal all the material. I'm the one who took this case to the FBI. I'm the one who wrote an op-ed piece saying to the FBI, please investigate me and investigate her.
We've talked about
one of us is committing perjury, and it's she who's committing perjury.
And she has said that, too. Now, Alan, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the former girlfriend or current of Jeffrey Epstein, there's been rumors that she has videotapes. If she does,
I hope so.
You hope so.
I hope so.
You think
that would be
you
my
will be
greatest
completely
dream.
exonerated?
Of course. I said on day one, I hope there are videotapes. I hope there are photographs. I hope there are witnesses. There will be no proof because there can't be proof. I never met this woman. I have overwhelming proof that she has admitted she never met me. In the emails and in the book manuscript, she describes one incident where she said she saw me, but she denies having had sex with me.
Well,
she said she had sex with George Mitchell. She said she had sex with many other people.
She told it
but she never said she had sex with me.
In NBC, and she certainly said it in the Netflix documentary.
I'm talking about back when, close to when it happened. She went to the FBI. She told them who she had sex with, not me. She went to her lawyer. She told them initially who she had sex with, not me. Then her lawyers pressured her. And then she started naming me at the end of 2014.
We have no reason to disbelieve you. But, Alan, you know how the media works.
Believe me, because I have all the evidence.
You know that your former client, Jeffrey Epstein, has also benefited from relationships with the media. I mean, he called Graydon Carter at Vanity Fair. He called Marty Barron.
That's not my problem.
I know, but he got favorable treatment in the media. What I'm saying is, you know how that works. And, you know, if you,
all I know is there are facts out there.
You have been harassing, to an extent, the Miami Herald people. You called the Pulitzer Board. You sent tweets.
No, I wrote a letter. Let me tell you what I did. I wrote a letter to the Pulitzer Board outlining everything I gave them. She never disputed that. Everything I gave them. I said, this is what she had. She didn't use it. This is what I gave her. She didn't use it. This is what she promised me she would put in the story. She had a vested interest, a Pulitzer Prize vested interest in presenting Virginia Giuffre. Of course not, because she's not a journalist, really. She's somebody who works for the other side. She had a vested interest in presenting Giuffre, in presenting Giuffre as a credible person. And I proved that she lied about Al Gore, Tipper Gore. She lied about so many people. She went through the Rolodex of Jeffrey Epstein. And so the media has to start investigating her the way they investigated the accusers of Kavanaugh, the accusers of Biden. Virginia Giuffre is not believed by her own lawyers, not believed by the United States government, but believed by the media.
All right.
Please investigate.
We're on it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Phew. That was a little intense. Anyway, Tom Fiedler, you were the former editor of the Miami Herald. First, I want to say a couple of things. Alan Dershowitz is right when he says we have not fully vetted Virginia Giuffre. We haven't, and we've taken her pretty much on face value. No one's really drilled down, and frankly, there are a lot of holes in her story. On the other hand, Tom, this notion that the Miami Herald, the New Yorker, Netflix, all these media outlets and news organizations would somehow be in cahoots or in conspiracy to hold on to this information because somehow it's going to bolster their bottom line. It makes no sense to me. It's conspiratorial nonsense, in my opinion, that all of these news organizations would, for the same reason, not use whatever this exonerating information is that Alan claims to have sent to all of them. And by the way, I did ask him for it. I haven't heard back. I just did the interview yesterday, but I hope he sends it to us, too.
Yeah, I almost don't know where to start. I'm almost speechless by listening to that interview, which I think the one thing that does come through that seems to me undeniable is that he is in a panic about this. He has been fixated on this issue for a long time. Now, I have no idea what the discussions were that went on between Alan Dershowitz, Julie Brown, and her editor, the investigations editor at the Miami Herald. But I do think that this whole idea, and he came back to it and more or less slid over it, of sourcing is critically important here, because Dershowitz apparently has a habit of giving information to people or tapes or things that he thinks are relevant there, in the hope that reporters will use that information but not attribute it to him. And this idea, is it on the record or off the record, I think he had so thoroughly mixed up that anything that Julie Brown used, I think, would have been problematic, as knowing, did I violate a confidence or not? I wasn't there, so I'm not going to be objective about this, but I know Julie Brown. I hired Julie Brown. I know the investigations editor. I know that they are both sophisticated about this, knowledgeable about what's on the record or off. What is particularly infuriating to me was the effort that Dershowitz made to go to the Pulitzer board and prevent the Miami Herald's work from being considered for a Pulitzer Prize. I can tell you with almost certainty that Miami Herald doesn't do investigations to win Pulitzer Prizes. The Herald does investigations because that's our role. That's the right thing to do. The idea that Dershowitz would go to the Pulitzer board to keep a prize from being awarded, it absolutely is, I think, I can't come with a word stronger than disgusting in it. But it overlooks the fact that there were literally months, if not years, of work that Julie had done to bring this story forward. And it was not about Giuffre entirely at all. She was one piece and a questionable piece of an otherwise extremely solid project that went on a long time.
Okay. Emily, has Dershowitz sued the Miami Herald for libel?
I don't believe so. I'm not positive on that. I know he's got... No, I don't think so.
Well, I'll look forward to that because that's his recourse. And I agree with you and with Professor Dershowitz that if he's being unfairly maligned, and by multiple media outlets, and it's become a meme, really, and in entertainment vis-a-vis the Netflix documentary, that's a terrible thing to happen to someone if they're innocent, a really terrible thing. I grant that. But, Alan Dershowitz doesn't know anything about the media other than that he constantly wants to be on it. And when Alan Dershowitz opines about truth, I'm carried back to a quote that it's actually something he wrote in one of his books, and this is a quote from a PBS interview he did about the O.J. Simpson case, where he's talking about how prosecutors who believe a defendant is guilty, well, they only care about ultimate truth. Quote, if you're the defense attorney, you care deeply about intermediate truth, but you tend to neglect ultimate truth. So everybody likes certain truths and dislikes other truths, depending on whether it serves their interests, end quote. There you go.
I think in terms of the media that the sex allegation is the something shiny he would really like us all to focus on, instead of the fact that the plea deal he brokered could be in violation of the Crime Victims Act. The Crime Victims' Rights Act, that there are bigger issues here, and his part in this is pretty small. So he's trying to defend his reputation in terms of the sexual allegation, but that's not really the biggest part of this story. I also see a lot of mixing up between news media and media in general. Netflix isn't the news. No. I'm not sure why he's expecting them to act the way reporters and editors and researchers and fact checkers would for this particular documentary, which really is infotainment. I think a lot of people are interested in the something shiny because it's salacious and clicky, and there are bigger issues at play here that are going ignored while we focus on this element, which mainstream media has actually covered. They've said that he's defended himself, and he's still going on about it.
Lylah mentions a confusion of different types of media, so I thought I should mention that Alan Dershowitz is now threatening to sue CBS over words spoken about him by an entirely fictional character in a fictional series, and that just really...
They use his name and they call him a shyster. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's absurd. I don't think that he's serving his cause well with the media strategy he's pursuing. Essentially, he's trying to prove a negative, and you really can't prove a negative. If he said nothing, I don't think it would change anybody's view of his role or lack thereof in this. I think that where his case falls apart in his interview with you is his essentially saying that Julie Brown of the Miami Herald is lying. And I think that when people weigh the work that Julie Brown has done over the years in breaking the Jeffrey Epstein story, that just doesn't add up.
That's true.